Good evening. I'm Dharmendra Gordon, and this is Vegan Synergy Meditation meeting number 20. Welcome, everybody, whether you're here live or listening to the recording. I invite you now to just take a moment to sort of just take stock of the moment you're in right now and sort of allow yourself to disconnect from whatever you've been doing today, wherever your mind's been engaged, wherever your emotions have been engaged, wherever your activities have been engaged. And just release all of that. Allow it to kind of dissolve and settle into your body here, wherever you are, in your space. And just be aware of the sounds in your space and what's within your vision. And as you do so, just allow yourself to become still. Your eyes can be open or closed. Either way is fine. Just allow yourself to settle and be still. And notice how you're breathing. Just allow your awareness to be with your breath. And give yourself some space now to take a look over your last week, over the timeline of your last week, of the experiences you've been through in this last week, and where your mind's been at, what kind of thoughts you've had, what kind of challenges have come up, what's pushed your buttons, what may have caused you to react or close down or be defensive. And all you're going to do is just look at that. Just be aware of it, acknowledge that that's the kind of movement you experienced from your mind space in traveling through the last week. And just gather up the synthesis of whatever that challenge that you've had for the last week and drop into your heart. And just allow that synthesis of challenge to become surrounded by the energy of your heart. And just embrace it and be present with whatever all those challenges were in the last week that is now like a seed in the middle of your heart. And just breathe into your heart. Give space and allow that seed to open up. And through your heart, just take a look at what's really being communicated to you from life over the last week. What's the message? What are you receiving in your heart? Because that's what you're going to take with you, because your heart is connected into your essence. And whatever becomes awake in your essence is part of you. And always be part of you. And let's just take one more step down into the being, into the center of your being, your core. And just sort of rest in your nature. And in that place in you that's part of all of nature, that's part of the greater nature, that's part of the universal life force. And feel the essence of you and the essence of the nectar that you've extracted from the last week you've been through, that's been loved through your heart and is now allowing you to connect with the life you exist in. Just feel what it's like to be connected to all of life through your center. From the unique position of you, of who you are and what you've been through in the last week. And just allow that to be shared with all of existence right now. Just imagine that that's spreading out from who you are, from your being, out into existence, without any holding back. You're just giving of your own truth and authenticity. And from that place of authenticity, the theme for this week's meeting is the 9th life code of unbending intent, whose spectrum of consciousness goes from automatic pilot at the shadow level to single-pointedness at the gift level to unbreakable resolve at the siddha level. This theme is actualized as the essence of focus and is the capacity to hold open the space for as long as it is necessary to bring a project to its completion. Hence, the size and complexity of the project has a direct bearing on the depth of focus required to bring the project to completion. At the shadow level, the degree of focus is at the minimum and is just enough to complete the task. And if a task is repetitive enough, the degree of focus needed to see it through becomes almost non-existent. And that brings to mind the concept of automatic pilot. And life is filled with lots of little tasks that require almost no focus due to their constant daily repetition. And that can include everything from chores to one's job, to the habitual ways we react with others in all kinds of relationships, to our fixated beliefs and views about life, to our reactive emotional patterns, and on and on. We can tend to fall into such a state of inertia in so many aspects of our life that unless some unusual influence or impactful event enters our life, we will basically live out our life on automatic pilot. Or even our vacations and other types of recreational activity are another variation of the same old repetitive behavior patterns being reproduced in different environments. A deep fear of change keeps a shadow level of life moving along in the same old way as it always has, and anything or anyone that has the potential to introduce something new into the situation is to be avoided at all costs, unless, of course, there's some way to make that newness fit into one's perception of reality in a way that doesn't upset the old, tired, and tried way of doing things. Observing the world as it is and the beings in it, it would seem that most are quite content that things keep moving along as they appear to have always done. Unbending intent at the shadow level is completely invested in keeping things the same, maintaining the status quo, not making waves. Being different, doing things differently, changing your mind, allowing yourself to feel in new and unaccustomed ways, all of this is perceived as alien, threatening, and even hostile. It takes a literal shift to a higher level of energy to even begin to feel suffocated and claustrophobic by a life lived in which everything is experienced from the same plane of consciousness, where one's point of view is rigidly fixed and solidified around a certain ideology that governs practically all of one's activities. This increase in energy can only come about by a determined effort to become more aware of oneself and the way one is living one's life. Attention is the food of essence, and essence is the presence of all that is real, true, and true in ourselves. As what is real and true begins to make its appearance in our life parallel to our degree of wakefulness, we begin to have a real reason to shift our center of gravity from being on automatic pilot to making aims in our life that require our single-pointed focus of attention over extended periods of time to bring to fruition whatever it is we have intended. It engages more of who we are to express unbending intent with determination as we learn that bringing energy to those things we are engaged in, we naturally tap into the ability to concentrate more and spontaneously enter a process of exploration and discovery that fuels the depth of focus with greater efficiency. By beginning to do things with determination, we also increase the level of chi, life force energy, moving through our bodies and energy fields, thus making available more of that which empowers all our faculties to function ever more at their greatest potential. As more energy becomes available to fuel the focused determination we bring to our endeavors, we may also become attentive to the fact that we also have more awareness available, not just for our projects, but also for our life in general. As a result of this, our consciousness becomes enriched by the depth of awareness and creative energy we are bringing into all the various facets of our daily activities. In the Taoist teachings, there is what is known as the three treasures, which are vitality, energy, and spirit. There's a direct relationship between these three treasures and the spectrum of consciousness from shadow to siddha, i.e. higher self, that is particularly well illuminated in this ninth life code. Vitality, or vital force, is what keeps all the automatic and regulatory mechanisms of the physical body and etheric counterpart coordinated and working smoothly below the level of conscious awareness. Many, if not all, of these systems and processes actually work best on automatic pilot, and most of our very survival depends on it. There are special methods in the Taoist system that work through the energy meridians of the internal organs, designed to optimize the efficiency of the various facets of the functionings regulated by the vital force. These methods were discovered by Taoist adepts who would bring the focus of their meditative gaze upon specific areas of the physical form for as long as it would take to unravel and reveal the mysteries contained therein. As a result, the Taoists realized many gifts that came to them in the form of energy practices that were designed to circulate qi in various ways, depending on just where in the body their focus of work was taking place. They discovered that the physical form was regulated by a system of energy channels within which qi was always moving. So it was with the unbreakable resolve of the spirit that the Taoists set out to discover as much as they could about the inner workings of this mysterious form they inhabited and the many layers of consciousness it exists in. Hence, the siddha of unbreakable resolve is that which maintains a focus over generations, and the purpose of which is to uncover ever more of the incredible richness and diversity of what goes into and makes up our human existence. It is the focus of the spirit to make clear that there is a direct translation of the workings of the greater cosmos within this smaller cosmos that is us. We are a hologram of the macrocosm in its fullness, at the level of the microcosm, through the vehicle of transmission of the spirit that is made possible through the language of fractals. All of this deep wisdom could only possibly be revealed through the concerted effort of many individuals whose combined efforts spanned many generations, and all with a single pointed focus of uncovering the hidden workings of life, the universe, and everything. Hi, Lucy.
Hi.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
I hope you caught a little bit of the life code there, but that's okay if you didn't. So everybody can be present now, and if your eyes were closed, you can open them. And we'll, with that introduction of the life code, I'll kick off the meeting as I always do by jumping into the shadow of this particular life code and weaving it into my own shadow, as I always do. And everybody in sharing tonight has the option of either using the life code we're working on tonight, and you can use the shadow gift and siddha from there, or you can do your own shadow gift and siddha, or like I'm going to do without really even trying, but it always seems to work out that way. I'm just going to start sharing my relationship to the shadow of this life code and see where it goes. So the essence of this life code, the ninth life code, is about focus. And focus has, in terms of the shadow, focus, it's almost like an anti-focus. It's almost as if you want to avoid focusing, so you focus all your energy on not focusing, and that creates this kind of inertia. And it's an inertia that basically refuses to deal with whether it's feelings or thoughts or certain things you're supposed to do. The attitude is, I'm going to keep my focus on not focusing on those things, so I don't have to do that. So that's the essence of my take on what happens with inertia. It's just a sluggishness. It's a sluggishness towards the desire to engage life. basically. And I find that throughout my week, this last week, there's always moments that come up when I might be looking at something on Facebook, or I might be deciding between two projects at work, or I might be feeling a certain way about something that happened to me yesterday with a certain person and how I'm going to decide about that. And what happens is, in the shadow space, when I'm in that shadow space of inertia, is that I just find myself just forgetting about all of that and doing something completely unproductive, meaningless, and not in a way that's necessary recreational, but it's more like taking that energy and just building up a resistance toward it by doing something that resists it, and creating a resistance out of it. So that's just an interesting space I find myself in sometimes, probably more so with emotional content, which is a typical male thing. That emotional content a lot of times is not something most males want to really deal with. So do something to stay busy or whatever. Oh, and Nancy's here too. So it's just interesting because it isn't really anything to do with an emotional. Hi, Nancy. Welcome. We're just getting started. I started with the 9th life code, which is all about focus, and the shadow is automatic pilot. The gift is single pointedness, and the siddha is unbreakable resolve. And I'm just sharing my take over the last week on what that's about, in terms of how I see it in the world, and then how I see it in relation to how I manifest my own life, and the things I tend to go into an inertia about and just become really non-available to engage life. So, and I think I pretty much covered what I wanted to say about inertia, other than I also see it in a strange way in the people. I just got another hit about the people out there who are trying to. They're striking against the lockdown, and they're trying to get back into work just for the sheer. I guess because they have ants in their pants and they can't just be in their own space. They got to go out and do something. They can't respect the health space that the collective needs right now, and everybody needs to cooperate with to be in your own space for a while. And so I see that as a total avoidance of, it's an inertia in the sense that they don't want to feel what they have to face when they're just being with themselves. And so that's a typical, very male aggressive thing. We got to go out and change this. We got to go out and earn money. We don't care if other people die. We only care that we go out and do it. And so there's a hidden
too. It's the American culture.
Excuse me?
I think isn't the American culture go out and do and identifying with what you do?
That could be true, but Nancy, I'll let you express that when you want to share the shadow aspect of this. That's how we do this meeting. Everybody shares their thing. And then if anybody has anything they want to share about what somebody's sharing, to open it up a bit. And yes, I agree with what you say. But I want to give you total space to say it. And so when you feel like doing that, you just go right ahead. So yeah, it's just a strange kind of hidden inertia. It's the inertia that most males, when they get out there and try to fight things, they don't want it. It's an inertia about their feelings. Most men are feeling dead. So that's a good way to put it. So I obviously, as a male, there are times, just based on sheer conditioning, sheer inertia, that there's just would rather not feel that right now, kind of thing. So that's my shadow in relation to this. So I'm done.
I'll go next, if that's okay. I think the the ninth life code has kind of, and what you just said, Darminder, resonates a lot with me, and I feel like almost stuck in inertia. And funny enough, the way I've been describing how I was feeling a lot lately is I seem to have the tools and do the work during the day, but I go to bed with the greatest intent, but wake up and start from ground zero again, like, you know. And I'm obviously subconsciously doing that to myself, and I feel more physical, but probably emotional as well, because sometimes I do have justifiable reasons as such a bit with chronic illness and dealing with the financial side of things. And for me, the lockdown hasn't really changed my routine much, so that doesn't help the inertia either. And I find myself a lot more lately, I think, because I just feel like it's in the atmosphere now. Everybody's kind of sitting with themselves, and so I feel like I'm even taking more steps backwards than forwards in the inertia as well. And like that, distracting myself with things to avoid my thoughts or to avoid actually doing what I need to do. And again, going to bed with the intent, but waking up again, starting from ground zero, is my biggest shadow. I feel stuck, constantly stuck in that space.
Wow, thanks, Stephanie. What you were sharing reminded me too about the other side of inertia when it has to do with our consciousness and the way almost all of modern man lives in this state of automatic pilot. And that's an inertia of consciousness. You know, we can think of an inertia in not moving our body or not moving our emotions, but in terms of awareness and waking up and allowing our chi and our spirit and our vitality to come together and become alive and then participate in life as an alive being, most people are happy with just whatever groove they're in. And I think that the COVID is really bringing up a very powerful mirror here of how people, the minute that automatic pilot, that literal rut of the way most people live their life and the groove they're in, doctor, lawyer, priest, politician, whatever, the minute all of a sudden that stops and they have to be with themselves, it's like, whoa. You know, it's like all of a sudden their happy little space of consciousness inertia that trance has been broken. And now they have to face all these things that are actually behind that and actually go into a physical inertia, which most people I don't think are real comfortable with. They're much more comfortable with being dull and numb in their consciousness than they are with having to face just being in a kind of relational inertia too, because you're not out there dealing with everybody the way you normally do. You're in this inertia on a relational level, so it's very limited, except in things like this. But I mean, most people are used to being out there and doing whatever they do to make their day happen. So I just wanted to throw that in because that's another good part, the automatic pilot thing. That's another form, a more subtle form of inertia that we all, I'm sure, during the past week can find ourselves doing things, and maybe at that moment we wake up and go and become aware and go, oh, I'm in the middle of doing this and I wasn't even aware of it a moment ago. I mean, how many times does that happen, especially to people that are awakening? That tends to happen quite a bit. So I just wanted to throw that in because that and just what you were sharing kind of clicked something in me about that. So thank you.
I'll share. Um, well, basically what ends up happening to me is I go off in multiple directions, and I go off in many directions, and it's hard for me to pick up a direction unless someone else is going there with me. It's like I have a hard time going into flow for my own creations. So I'll help the creations of many others, hoping that they'll help me with my creations, which often leads to me just being a worker rather than an entrepreneur and a visionary, which I have a lot of entrepreneurial visionary works. And I've worked on that coming through too. And I've had jobs in that. But I struggle with being alone in it, and because I'll go in so many directions, I need a little bit of like someone reining me in, like a good manager or a good co-producer, co-creator. So I'm here, and like during this, I was basically, but I'm also very energized right now, and I'm very visual as well. So when you were speaking that, I missed all the points, and I had to like, so I tried to draw it out so I could see it. So I struggle with my inertia if I can't see it too, like I'm for framing, and that's how I end up being a designer, I guess, is because I need to draw things out and to see it. And yeah, so just going in different directions and multiple directions at one time, and then losing and being drained, getting drained from having so much energy blasting out, and then needing to reel back in, and then, oh, I didn't do that thing that was for me. And so, but in the realization of that is I'm thinking, well, I just need to work with teams. So I'm working on bringing people together, because I don't think I'm supposed to be alone or someone's worker for their thing. Although, so I'm choosing who I want to work with a little bit more, so I can bring some inertia or some flow into other people's lives, and then see how it flows back, with working with people that actually flow back in ways that really assist me in flowing.
Cool. Thank you, Denise. It sounds like that there might be a tendency in the shadow space to fragment, but if there's a team, then maybe it can just be diffracted out and then reflected back more usefully than just fragmented off into nothing. That's what I picked up a little bit in what you were saying too, which can definitely be a phenomenon of a kind of a focus that gets fractionized, for better or worse. So that is definitely connected with inertia, yeah. Because it makes a fragmented energy can't really go in one direction and keep a track and produce something. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks.
I'll go, if that's right. Yeah, I guess this week, this is really appropriate for where I am right now at the moment, to be honest. In terms of moving into the intent, focused intent, the last few days since sort of Saturday, Sunday, I feel like I've moved through into a bit of kind of energy. But there was definitely some inertia in a way over the last couple of weeks, just in terms of, I don't know if it would be called inertia though. I had stepped back from everything that I've been doing. I've kind of taken a couple of weeks break from work. Initially it was just going to be 1 week, and then I felt called to just immerse myself further into it. And dive into more spiritual research and meditation and things. And I guess for me, I always end up feeling guilty for taking time for myself. I'm learning to move through that more quickly now, but there are definitely days where I feel that inertia and guilt for allowing myself the space to just be, and to not necessarily have to do anything. But sometimes it is the I guess especially when I'm kind of coming towards the end of a place, or the end of a time of very focused intent and a lot of action, organizing or being involved in actions, it often comes in cycles. And I guess towards the end of that, that's when I really start feeling the inertia. And that's when I start like, oh, there's just too much going on in my head. Energetically, obviously, it's very depleting when you're doing the whole tons of actions and not necessarily having the time in between to do the self-care and everything. But yeah, I find it's that kind of fracturing as well, fracturing or fragmenting, as you say, about the focus and my intention sometimes becomes a bit like spread too thin in a way. But now I definitely feel, yeah, the last few days things have happened and I'm able to, I'm kind of naturally being called to just go, and my focus is there, and I have a very strong, very clear intention of where I'm going. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that right now.
Yeah, I think the word you were looking for was dispersed. That you know, when your attention becomes attenuated and really thin, worn thin, you know, that happens when your attention fragments. Because in the shadow space, it's always an extreme. You either have almost no focus, or you have such a hyper focus. It's almost like you have, you know, the ability to focus on a dot to the exclusion of everything else, which isn't necessarily a good thing either. So it's either hyper or non-existent, and that's in that sense, when you can also use the word automatic pilot, because that's a condition of almost non-existent focus. So it creates an incredible inertia to evolution. Also, that's in the bigger picture. It just makes it. That's why there's not much evolution happening on the planet, you know, unless nature comes in and makes it happen. Otherwise, there's very few people like this who want to actually, you know, do a accelerated collective evolution, and for the purpose of, you know, becoming more loving and compassionate, and applying that in our lives, and also just giving ourselves, you know, the kind of exposure to experience that we never learned when we were. Nobody ever taught us about these kind of things. It's hushed, you know, about, you know, we're not taught to be yourself, be unique, have your heart so open you can feel everybody else's heart in the space, and we can tune into people, and we can be creative about how we share our experience. I mean, not a whole lot anyway, and at least not with the intention that we evolve by doing it. Usually, if there's any of that as we grow up, it's just to relieve ourselves, you know, let's just go out and have a few beers and shoot the shit, you know, it's more like that kind of thing. So good, cool.
Can I just wanted to briefly add as well, as you were saying that, I kind of got a hit of the inertia that's caused by social media, or for me anyway. Sometimes I find myself, even though now I'm kind of coming back into social media because I do have the focused intent of what I'm doing, and that's a really important tool. But yeah, sometimes I find that creates the inertia in my mind, and it's overwhelming, and then I end up just scrolling, and then I end up looking at stuff I don't really want to look at, and yeah, it's like, you know, I guess to an extreme, kind of the brainwashing element of media in general, and we're kind of controlled by algorithms and everything. But yeah, that's definitely a kind of a trigger, I guess, for my inertia.
Media, or we can call it Facebook inertia, or media inertia, media induced inertia. That's a good one. I hadn't even thought of, hadn't even occurred to me. That's a good one.
Can I say something? I was thinking about how we all get put through this system where we are put into school and taught to behave and conditioned by our culture. And it reminds me of what they do to like horses and animals to break them in, you know, how they break their will. And I was thinking, imagine if we went to school, but what if it was a school that actually allowed us to truly develop our creativity even from a young age, because kids are incredibly creative, you know. And what if in school we learned communication skills and things that were truly important in getting through life, you know, how different our whole society would be, how different we'd be, how different we would be. Like I've thought about that, like who would I be if I hadn't been told that you have to be this, this, and that, you know. And I'm finding that this time for a while I enjoyed the lockdown, and I'm starting to feel like it's getting really hard. But I know there's also other things I can do, you know, but there's been a kind of a sort of a depression that's been setting in lately. And I need to get out more. I know I haven't been getting outside hardly at all, and I think that's really important to get out and get some sunshine, you know. But sometimes I feel like that it's kind of like that part of me that was squished from the time we were, you know, I was a little kid, and it's like this very deep wounding that we don't really face normally. We take our focus out, and also all the things that we do, we're used to having an audience. You know, like I work and I teach some classes, and there's people there, and I get the feedback, you know, the positive feedback we get. We do things, and that's how we learn to behave, what we get the positive feedback for, you know. Which is one of the things that's hard about being vegan, because we know that it's right, but generally from society we don't get a lot of that positive feedback about it, you know. Although sometimes I do, you know, sometimes I do, but just talking about it, I kind of feel like I just sort of answered my own question about why that depression is coming there, because it's sort of like all of the other avenues of just being distracted are gone. And I do experience that when I try to meditate a lot too. I notice how you'll sit there and try to focus, and then the mind comes along, kind of takes you for a ride, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm back here again. And it's like dreaming while awake, and then all of a sudden you become conscious and you realize, okay, oh, now here I am, you know. And so it's kind of a similar thing happening now. I'm done.
Wow, there was a lot of good stuff in that. So I'll as we say, I'll riff on that a little bit. First thing is, I can see the thing about inertia in terms of when we're children, because inertia in science is the resistance to movement. And as children, our natural essence wants to move all over the place. And every single force we encounter out there in the form of other human beings and even life itself sometimes, when we try to do things that are just impossible, that involve nobody else but ourselves, we encounter such a resistance to the natural expression of ourselves. And that's a beautiful point. And that in itself is just like an enforced inertia. Here, we're going to shove this inertia down your life force throat there, so that whenever you really want to do something, you're going to be so conditioned, you're going to stifle your own self, and we won't have to do it for you anymore. Congratulations, you've become a domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. And then the second point you were making was just, let's see, the second point you were making was also a really good point, having to do with the depression. Yes, and when well, there's a lot of neat stuff there about meditation. And one thing I wanted to say about meditation, this kind of a meeting here, and you were saying like I'm dreaming awake. Well, actually, this is when we do these meetings and step into our gift, we're actually intentionally opening up our vision as if we were as relaxed as if we were dreaming at night, but we hold ourselves awake with all of our intent and our consciousness. So it's an actual intentional dreaming awake instead of like when you're doing it on your own. That's why it's so much harder when you're on your own to meditate, because you basically, you start watching your breath, and then 20 minutes later, you've been through this whole phantasmagorical fantasy in your mind, and you go, oh yeah, I'm sitting and watching my breath. So 3 more breaths, and then you're off again into another one, and and that's a great description of meditation. I mean, that's so true. I mean, everybody knows that who meditates. That's just the way it is. And so one of the things this is meant to address is the inertia of our grooved tendency to think and think and think and think. And so when we meditate, that thinking just will, okay, we'll let you have a couple of breaths, then we got your ass, and we're going to take you wherever we want to take you, and we'll let you back when we feel like it, make you feel like you're trying again to be present. But so a lot of good points in what you said. Thank you, Nancy. All about shadow aspects of focus. Oh, and unless, Amira, I'll give you a moment in case you have anything to share at this point before we shift into the gift space of focus. Okay. So the interesting thing is, as I take that, I'm going to go with the one that's most uncomfortable for me is the what I was talking about, the emotional inertia that is kind of like a thing that most men experience. So if I take that kind of hardened sort of hardened, I guess it's a macho male thing. I guess it's in the collective where a man can't show how he feels or express it or whatever. But if I take that kind of hardened energy and I bring it into my heart, yeah, then it's very different, because then I see that at the gift space of single pointedness and determination. When it comes to my emotional energy, it's all about clarity. So it's all about aligning with what I feel is true to me. And so whenever I come to that space where I connect in with what's true to me and follow my feelings, and that could be like I'm tuning into something that is bringing me joy, or I'm tuning into something that's trying to let me know that I need to go in a different directions. By following my feelings, it could be any kind of a feeling. It could be a feeling that says, okay, we need to move out of here, or we need to move through this, or we really need to go for this because it's really something beautiful. So what I find is that when I tune into my feelings, it's not anything like what my mind was trying to tell me it was about being some kind of a mushy, weak, effeminate guy. It's more about the capacity to allow myself to feel whatever I'm feeling. And as I tune into what I'm feeling, then all of a sudden I get a much better sense of where I'm at, how my body's feeling, the environment I'm in. I start to feel connected with everything in my environment. And I start to create a sense of relationship, and I start to move out of my own sense of connectedness to what is going on around me. Like right now, as we move into gift space, I remind everybody that right now, as we move into gift space and we drop out of our minds and the dramas we're creating there, we're also connecting. All of us are all connected in our heart right now. We're all kind of resonating at the same frequency through our heart. So, and I'm kind of creating that like the ripple in the pond. I'm the first rock that's dropping in the pond, and the ripples are spreading out. And that rock is, dropping the stone right from our head right down into our heart. The problem comes into the heart, boom, and then it opens. Then it starts getting space. And the minute you give space to a problem, it's not a problem anymore, because whatever it was you were struggling with has become a part of everybody else's space now. And it's so much easier when a problem is shared with 6 people it's no longer a problem. It's just like, okay, well, that's what that is. And so that opens up the space. And that's the magic of when you get into your gift and you open up with the heart space, and that's why this transformation works. I give the focus to the heart because the heart is capable of reaching out and connecting with everybody else in the same heart space, no matter where you are on the planet. That's just the magic of that. But then once you step into that space, well, what's arising? So I can follow my feelings. I can be clear about what feelings are there in me and what they're telling me, because I give myself, I stay in my a single pointed aim to focus on my experience instead of, freezing up and numbing out to my emotions as a male. Instead, I go, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to breathe into my chest, and I'm just going to get in touch with what I'm feeling there. And in this particular case, when it comes to focus, it's actually the thing that powers us in meditation to stay present. It really is, because then when we're present, we're present with our mind, with our feelings, with our intuitions, with our sensations, with everything. And that's all we need, because then from there we're intelligent, and eventually we can take that off the meditation mat and into the world. And we can, like right now, I say we can do it here. So we can take that degree of focus that we bring to the meditation mat to this meeting right now. So this is actually a really good gene key to actually have in this meeting, because it's an actual thing that every single meeting we are brought to do when we get to the gift space, is that we come into single pointed interconnectedness through our hearts with determination to be in a state, a shared field of consciousness, where we all support each other's awakening to whatever our gifts are. And that's my way of expressing that. So that's the opening into the gift. Whoever would like to go next, I invite you wholeheartedly.
I'll go. The gift section, or the gift aspect, I guess, of all of this, to me feels like a very grounded balance of having integrated the dark and also having the higher self kind of peeking through, I guess. Not sure if that's exactly how you would describe it, Dharmendra, but that's kind of how I feel, is this really strong, grounded energy in the middle of our genius, or of our the gift. And for me, I feel very grounded at the moment in my focus of the activism that I'm doing after the last couple of weeks, or the last little while of not really having done any activism in terms of my organization. So Paradise Rising, which is built on a foundation of meditation, it's like a spiritual activism group slash emotional mental health support for activists. And because of all the situation that has had light shed on it recently, some sexual violence allegations, and the whole ARMeToo hashtag, I've had to, and I've felt called to, and I've been able to, thankfully, spring into action to organize some events. And over the next few weeks, I'll be doing a lot of those events for the wider community, for women and men. And I feel very grounded and very energized into that place. So my focus at the moment really is organizing those events through Paradise Rising, collaborating with other groups, connecting with people who are on the same page, or on a similar page at least, who want to make a difference and who want to help, and we can do our best to prevent these situations going forward. So I'm very excited about that. And this is there's a lot of flow, there's a lot of confirmation, and it's really, I think, because I have taken the last couple of weeks to really just focus on myself and my own growth, spiritually, emotionally, on lots of different levels. I feel like now I'm able to take that knowledge and I'm able to take that focus forward into really having my attention very, very clearly on the tasks at hand, which are getting people together for discussions. So that's where I'm at right now. And I feel like there is, within the wider community, there is also a focus of bringing light to a very dark situation. So I feel like this life code really is reflected in what's going on in the movement as well. And it's great to see that people are paying attention, and even if they're not necessarily publicly posting about it, you can tell that they're thinking about it, and it's making them probably quite uncomfortable. And I think just with any kind of wound, we have to just open it up, clear it out, get rid of all the yucky shit inside, and just cleanse it and heal and move forward together. So I'm glad to see that there is a lot of focus on this, and I think it's going to continue until it is cleared. I hope so. I think it will. We have to. This is the most crucial time in the history of our planet, almost, to be able to make that decision collectively together that we aren't going to allow this stuff to happen in future. So I'm grateful that that we are coming together, and that things like this meeting have been really, really helpful for me to have that focus. Yeah.
And Ashley, my darling, not only almost, but it has to happen. I put my heart and soul day in, day out for, years and years now to try and get us. I knew this was coming. You want to hear something really weird? I'm one of the most intuitive people you will ever meet. Darby knows this. I've known him for 47, 8 years now. Yeah. And the one thing that I do is, I have everything so on schedule. It's so, right there. So that's not happening now. It's a whole different world now. We are, even as activists, having to up our game and figure out how to be the most effective. And that in itself is a challenge, as it always has been, because God knows I went through it for freaking years trying to get it right and having a lot of criticism or people saying, fuck you, and so it's been quite the challenge. But all I do know, and I want to share with everyone here, and I hope you guys get this message, because I think it's probably one of the deepest, most profound messages we have to hear right now within ourselves, is just know that whatever you do and your choices you're making the right choices. However you can not contribute to your carbon footprint on Earth on any level, straws, frog wall, whatever, fur, leather, whatever. Just and just really trust, because right now I really believe. Now, I'm not going to say believe. I hate that, because it puts me in like some sort of a religious or whatever the fuck. I've had so many teachers in my life, and one recently, well, not recently, but like for years now, but up until now too, is Silas Rao and his white paper. And if you go to his website, Climate Healers, and you read it and you get it, if you fucking get what the fuck animal agriculture is doing to the planet, if you actually really fucking get the facts and you really fucking know it, yeah. And I know the people here do. But how do we get that out? Because that is like crucial. That's like the only saving grace we have. It is the only saving grace we have as activists of any kind. That we actually, you know, I mean, and we're not going to stop, right? We're not going to shut our faces. We're going to spew our shit, whether it's right or wrong, about activism. We just are. But the bottom line is like, you know, can we actually turn this sixth mass extinction around? Can we actually do that as activists? That's really the big fucking question. I mean, that's a huge question. And the only answer I have on my part, and I will shut up after that and anybody can take the floor, and I would love to hear anyone and everyone, but is I know in my heart I did everything I could. I know the people sitting here with me are the same. I know that. I know all you people on this program tonight. I know all of you are like so 1 billion% in. So I don't question that. And I thank you.
So that was kind of a brilliant, using animal agriculture. It's kind of a brilliant expose from the shadow all the way through to the Siddha, which, because the focus it's going to take to actually see it through the other side, so that this sixth mass extinction, it's like what I was talking about at the beginning in the introduction with the life code about the generations it took the Taoists to develop these radical systems of meditation they've developed. The Tao system is the most rich system in the world when it comes to meditation, and all the different ways they plug it into our natural world and our natural experience of our natural bodies. They are the most grounded on the planet when it comes to spiritual transmissions. And they developed so many incredible things. And that was the unbreakable resolve, which is the Siddha of it's the Siddha of focus. It's just, and that's what's going to take. It's the same unbreakable resolve that is in all our hearts right now, in relation to, you know, the climate healing and that whole thing. It's a huge thing, and the most central principle is obviously the 87% of you know, the greenhouse gas emissions that's created by animal agriculture that has to slowly but surely, you know, go away, and veganism is a big part of that. So I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that that's like, you know, entering into the biggest picture we can imagine of how to take a focus and create it through a whole collective, really for a universal purpose, because all the Siddhas really touch a universal purpose. And the universal purpose is just the respect and compassion for all of life, and justice too, for all living creatures. So I just wanted to highlight that aspect of what was just shared. Oh, and in the traditional gene keys, it's called the Siddha is called invincibility. But I think unbreakable resolve is kind of, to me personally, it captures just a little bit more what's really being addressed in that. Because invincibility is kind of like Superman or something. So that's not quite exactly what it's about. So.
I'll I'll go, but I'll try to go. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this, but anyway, um, I think for me, the gift I need to take rather than the gift I have is not being so, not being my own enemy and not being so hard on myself. Like that, I do battle with a lot, and I do take the steps I need to take, but then because I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, I end up being my own worst enemy and end up in this vicious cycle. But when I do, if I like that, when I took it down to myself and I looked back, I was like, I just kind of like want to just say to myself, like, you know, I am moving and I am doing a lot, and I'm in the right place, and that to not congratulate myself, but to just continue going in that space. I can't speak much for activism or being vegan, because to be honest, I'm only my third week on plant-based diet, and actually that was because I was completely ignorant and unaware of a lot of this stuff until I met Silas Rowe and then Jackie and the likes of other people, and started doing a bit of research. And it was health wise I was more interested as well, because as I said, dealing with chronic illness now, I'm not expecting anything from it. I'm just trying it health wise, and because I'm in a complicated case anyway, it is what it is. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, again, it's actually quite difficult for me to kind of get to the gift space. Other than that, to just to, which I think we all are, our own worst enemies and our own demons, that, like, you know, a demon on the shoulder telling us that we're not doing enough or putting unrealistic expectations on ourselves, instead of again, not congratulating yourself, but acknowledging the steps you have made, and even putting up the battle is a step. So to just be aware of that more.
What I thought was really cool, Stephanie, is that while you were, I guess, doing whatever you were doing with the information you were presenting, what I tuned into about you, and I realized that one of the things I appreciate about the way you present yourself in the space is that you have a real determination in the way you actually, how can I say it, the way you move your consciousness in order to say what you want to say, because you're saying certain things, but what I'm seeing is your determination to really express something. It comes through, and it's almost stronger than what you say. So to me, the gift is more of I see it more visual in terms of you being you as you're saying whatever you're saying. Because I've noticed about you from the first time I ever heard you speak in one of Jamin's meetings, is I just saw this determination in you to get, it's this determination to get your point across, whatever it is. And I see also that you're really honest in being determined to also, you know, upend anything in you that might be trying to sabotage, and you're becoming aware of the sabotage mechanisms that can mess with all of us when it comes to really getting honest and you know, either shitting or get off the pot, you know, kind of thing. And so I just want to acknowledge that, because the essence of that determination, or a kind of single pointedness, it comes through in a kind of stillness that permeates when you express yourself. There's a stillness in there. So all of that is very connected with determination. So I just want to reflect that back to you, that it may be coming out more in your behavior and maybe just practicing more, expressing it, and you'll just get, And also, I know it's hard to be on the spot and work with a theme too, because a lot of times we're better at just expressing what's happening for us in the moment. So in a way, a part of these meetings is like a training to train ourselves to tune into different dimensions or aspects of our genetics, and see if we can just intentionally sort of, and so even if you don't come out with whatever the wisdom is verbally, just by tuning into that place, it's going to come out in your behavior. So, I definitely want to acknowledge that that's apparent. It's visible when you're expressing yourself. So I think that was a good demonstration, more of a demonstration rather than an exposition of determination, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, if you don't mind me just adding quickly, for some reason, I've done therapy and counseling a lot throughout my life, and my counsellor used to always say to me, "Tell me what's in my heart." And every time I answer that question, she used to say, "That's what's in your head." And I always struggled with that, like, the feelings from the thoughts. And so I question myself a lot. Am I doing it right? I don't know, because that was one thing I never realized, but she used to always say to me, "You always speak with your thoughts, you never speak with your heart." And I struggle with that line.
Well, I get a tremendous amount of heart in what you say, because I feel heart is when you have a heart for something. If you have a heart for something, you're going to give it space and time. You're going to give it enough space and time to find out what it is and how you can relate to it. I feel you've spent a lot of time doing that with yourself. So to me, that's what heart is about. It's not, people have these funny ideas about heart. They think it's emotion or something. Heart is not emotion. It's a space. It's a space that accepts things for what they are. That's what heart is. And it starts from there. It's a lot more than that, but that's where it starts from. And emotions is something else. That's down in your belly. That's emotions. That's why we get funny bellies when we have funny emotions. So I think that a lot of these people who call themselves therapists and stuff are working more from a bunch of mental mishmash themselves about how things are supposed to be, rather than going in and healing themselves first and going through all the stages and steps it takes to do that. Then to me, you're qualified to come back out and help people through, because you'll have compassion and you'll have empathy for them when they go through those spaces, because you've been there too. And the fascinating thing is, if you've been through it and somebody else is going through it and you're really connected with them, like we all are here, we're all connected with each other as we go through these spaces. It's kind of interesting to see how other people go through those spaces, because it's not the same as you do, and you learn things. And I just think that a lot of therapists think they know it all, and they forget that they're also learning too. So, there's a lot that passes for quote, quote, certain professions, sadly, in lots of the professions that haven't really earned the title of what they really should be about. So anyway, that's my opinion of what I get from you.
You want to hear more about unbreakable resolve or invincibility? Oh, I don't hear you. You're on mute.
Oh, it's so funny when I do that. I'm sitting there talking to myself and people have to say, "You're on mute, hello." Yes, unbreakable resolve. Did you want to, we're still trying to move through the gift cell, but it's okay if you want to go up into the siddha, but usually it's nice if you can go through determination and single pointedness before we get to the invincible, unbreakable resolve. But you can do it if you want. I don't care. It's however you want to do it. There's no rules.
I think that my focus and determination comes from a faith in what I'm here to create. Oops. So I would say that my focus and determination comes from the idea that I'm on Earth to create something that is key for Earth thriving. And Amira, you're definitely right. Like I've felt that since I was born, I would say. And I feel like I even came here to have a lot of experiences since I was a child to learn what it is to help. And so I would say to help Earth come into a good place and people come into a good place. And I had a lot of really weird situations happen to me, and a lot of people are really surprised at how okay I am because of what have happened. And I would say that it's my focus and determination based on the feeling of the potential of my invincibility. Like I have a lot of potency and a lot of strength, and it comes from the faith in myself and what I came here to bring on Earth. And so I've been, always looking to learn how I can help. And I would say that I'm a bridger of many worlds because in my fragmentation that we were talking about earlier, I've gone about learning so many different ways and different things. And I definitely focus on I've learned over time that I'm focusing on specific areas. And the more I hone it down, the more focused I get, and the more I return to my determination, because sometimes if I fall off in my fragmentation, then I can remember my purpose, and my purpose allows me to bring back that focus and that determination. And it's not always what I believe it was supposed to be, like I think I'm Wonder Woman and I have 100 hands, 111 hands or something all the time, a lot of the times, and it's just not, it's not true. And so yeah, I have determination to make a lot of these things that I'm feeling percolate through me. I want to give them an expression. And I would say I'm an artist of activism, and I've gone some different routes than most people. And it's up now. It's actually something that people are interested in. I'm still discovering how to place it into a container to gift it. And I think that depends on the people that I connect with, and being sure that I connect with people who support me, because I've fallen off my donkey, as I say a lot of times, or I'm being a donkey rather than being someone who really has something to offer. And I'm focused and determined when I feel appreciated for the art of my living and my gifts that I can bring. Is this making sense? Is this kind of answering? You're on mute again.
My feedback is that I think everything you're saying is true to who you are. My hit is, if you were right now to drop down in your heart and give us what you're talking about, because you're more in a descriptive mode rather than in a how should I say it, than in an activation mode. It's descriptive rather than activated. Because usually when each one of us share a gift or a sitter or whatever, there's a certain quality to the gift that at a certain point there's a sense of it touching everybody's heart. And what I felt was something light up in my mind, but I haven't yet felt something light up in my heart about what you're saying. Because like I say, it's more descriptive, which is a mental thing, instead of activated, which is more of a heart thing. And that's okay. I mean, it's not like there's any it's not like there's any right way or wrong way, but if you ask for feedback, that's what I get. That's the hit I get. So like there was a time when we were connecting where you got that place of your meditative and yoga and that sense of getting in more there and speaking from that place is what I would, that's just on, you know, how briefly I've known you, that much I picked up.
Yeah. Well,
because you were also going into what had happened to you in your life, which was still more of a shadow space. So maybe if you shift more and get yourself into the space where your heart's at now and what's starting to open up for you now, you know what I mean? Just get into present moment with it and sort of jump into this. Yeah.
that makes more sense a little bit more. Yeah, because some good things are happening, I think. Well, but I'm just happy to connect with people that are helping me focus, that are in the realms that I'm intrigued in. That makes me very happy. That helps bring the focus around, and because if two people are focused on the same thing, then you can create greatness from there.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. I think
Well,
I struggle dropping into my heart. Like I can do that, but it's a very personal space for me. It's a very private space for me, honestly.
uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Well, I felt you drop into your heart there for a moment, and that's the point. The point is just to drop into there. I think it also takes a little bit of practice to do it in a collective, in a way where you protect your personalness while at the same time exposing your authenticity. That's kind of a trick. That you get it as you practice it. Because I'm just thinking of some of the people who have been doing this a little bit more. We never want to give away those places that aren't appropriate to give away unless it's a space where that's specifically what you're doing. And this space doesn't call for that. It just calls for the shift in frequency, and then you can stay very kind of like general about the areas that you're touching that might be very personal and specific, but as you share it, it's much more just in a general sense, but it's a sense that allows you to touch the gift in yourself as you do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It definitely does, but it's not something I'm practicing.
No, but it's totally cool because there's no mistakes here, and just in the last moment, I felt your drop in your heart, and if for you, I always respect everybody's whatever they bring into the space, and if that for you, when you drop into your heart, is something that you want to be silent with for now, then that's just as valuable as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's
Yeah, it makes me cry if I drop into my heart around people, unless I'm doing help sometimes, or like one-on-one is a little bit easier for me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. But I can feel you in your heart now, so something shifted.
Well, there's tears in my
What?
There are tears in my eyes.
Oh, okay. Well, and if you're comfortable just holding that space, we'll be in the sitta soon because we're almost done doing the gift, and I have a feeling there you'll it'll be different.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, that's all that's required. You just get into your heart, and thank you for having the courage to go there, because I can tell that's touching. It touches you, and it should. It's your heart.
It's been
So that-
a long time now.
Anyway, whatever it is you're touching is a very beautiful space because we're all connected in the heart right now. So I think all of us are kind of right there with you. It can definitely be just more silent than anything. So just, yeah, thanks. Let's see. Nancy, did you want to share anything in the heart space, gift wise? So I know you have some gift stuff in there. I know you have good heart. So.
I just dropped my food and my cat's eating it. Yeah, give me a couple minutes. Let me get a couple minutes here. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that was fun heart space for a moment. It's always good to laugh when you're
Yeah.
heart
Yeah.
space.
This is really helping me a lot to you know, because sometimes, like you were saying, we just feel what we're feeling, and that's how you go through it. And to not, fight it or feel like I shouldn't be feeling this, because that's like the worst thing, when you're feeling depression or feeling anxiety, especially at a time like now, and you're just like, I want to get out of this. And that almost certainly pushes us even further into it, So I feel like I'm just trying to feel the message in that for me, like what's that part of me saying? And I felt like I identified something like, yeah, it's like a very early wounding, how we have, part of our soul kind of beaten out of us, and never really got a chance to develop and flourish and grow. And honestly, when you think about how many people in this country are on medication for depression, like probably half the US. And it's really something, so my cat's not eating the food anymore, so it's okay. I have a cat that eats literally anything. He's literally ketchup. So yeah, it does feel good to laugh. It feels like it's been very healing being part of this, so thank you. I'll tell you, being vegan, for me, there's always that pain and that heartbreak of what's going on in the world, and I mean, it really does seem like what's happening for non-humans is worse in many ways. And I don't mean to discredit or dismiss the horrors that are imposed against other people, because there is certainly, and for me, vegan is all of that. It's just non-violence, it's love and compassion, and freedom for all beings.
What you really want to say is what's happening among humans doesn't even compare to the genocide.
Yeah.
And what is going on with animals on a daily basis doesn't even compare. The deaths on the planet, the people who are infected by COVID-19, it doesn't even come close to the animal genocide, to the all of it. Carry on, Nancy.
Yeah, and because I know, like, I saw Dominion once, and I honestly couldn't watch the whole thing. And I had been vegan a number of years already, and it wasn't anything. It's some of the stuff I guess I hadn't seen before, but it's so hard. And the thing I feel also is, like, I really do work on trying to, not let the violence win, because so many of us do. And I see posts on Facebook a lot, like, nobody cares, you show them all the horrors and they don't stop. I was like, well, I understand to a certain extent why people, you show them the horrors and they don't stop. I kind of understand why. I don't say it's okay, obviously, but it's so easy to become, victimize ourselves over and over again, and let that violence rob us of our birthright to our own inner peace. Because I really believe that at our core, that's who we really are. We're not just these empty slates that you can just dump anything on, and you know what I mean, let what's happening around us dictate how we feel and who we are. But we, that is, so there's, I kind of, honestly, sometimes I feel like, I don't know, like schizophrenic, because I go back and forth, like, Yeah, I get it. I know the horrors are there, but at the same time, I don't want to forget that. But I don't want to let that violence win me over and make me miserable and turn me into this chronically angry vegan that is never going to actually be able to reach people, you know? So, so yeah, so it's kind of painful waking up. It can be kind of painful waking up. And that's why it's so important that we have connections like we have here. So thank you.
On that note, I have to say thank you, Nancy, because yes, waking up is like the hardest thing we ever have to do. I mean, really, because it means taking full responsibility for the choices that you make according to whatever you have to work with, right? So, given that, I mean, don't you wish everyone did that? Don't you wish everybody was solely responsible for themselves? But that's not the way it is. So we got to clean the toilets, clean the sewers, clean the beaches, clean the walkways, clean the freeways, clean the air, clean this, clean this. Blah, 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 blah. And it's just, you know, I learned very early on by enlightened masters that I sought out in my lifetime. And one of the things I took away from those teachers was, if you see it and it's broken in some way, give it care, take care of it, and leave it nice for the next person. That's the main thing that I learned on my spiritual path, was pay attention to where you walk, be responsible for what you do, and teach others to do the same, and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I learned so early on in my life. I used to say all the time, God, I must be an alien. I'm not from this planet. Not from planet Earth. Never, 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 never. Apparently I am.
None of us are.
Right. But you know, it's one of my biggest complaints in life was like, what about common courtesy? You walk out into public and you run into somebody else and you just show some common courtesy. It's like, that is such a lost natural thing, you know. It's a lost thing, you know. It hurts me. It's like, because I still to this day, 60 years later, go, well, I consider you, so you know, you actually have a choice. And it's, yeah, I don't know. You know, and yeah, never mind. Somebody else speak, please.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. So just to make a transition, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the meaning of the Ninth Life Code. Basically, it's the place of where the universal life force provides all the patterns that basically structure whatever it takes, from psychic energy to vital energy to material energy, all the patterns of all kinds of, all the different forms of life, and also all the different types of processes that different life forms need in order to survive. So in other words, they're logical patterns, and it's the life force's total cache of logical patterns. And the key to it is that the gate below it that it connects to, the 50-second gate, is the siddha is stillness. So the idea is, in this place where you become still, you can always find the answers. And all you have to do is breathe down into your belly and be still for a while. And once everything settles, like when you go by a pool of water, if you put your hand in it and move it around, you can't see your reflection, and there's mud and everything. If you sit silently and wait for that to settle, that's the metaphor. And then all of a sudden you look, you can see exactly your reflection in the puddle of water because it's still. So anyway, that it's the source of all patterns of the life force. In terms of the solution, what is the right way, or what is the most logical way to ensure survival? So every single life form at its core has this invincible, I guess you could call it urge. That's the word I was almost going to say desire, but it's an urge, an irresistible urge to be itself, because every single life form has that source of pattern that it's in touch with, that it is. And the only thing that makes it different, because all humans have basically the same pattern, we have 64 genetic codons. What makes us different is what womb we come from, who donated the sperm, what part of the world we're in, who their parent, et cetera, et cetera. It's all these external influences that dress up that pattern differently for each one of us. The only unknown or unpredictable factor is the one that we're discussing a lot in this meeting, is the one that we work with the most about, accelerated collective evolution. Well, why are we doing that? Because we want to wake up. We want to increase the frequency of our consciousness so we can become more loving, caring, conscious, together, grounded, real, positive, awake, authentic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, real, present, giving, understanding people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different, gifts and siddha in that. And it's that accelerated collective evolution is we're taking and we're using that quality of unbreakable resolve, of invincibility to discover what each of us is our true pattern. What is behind the appearance and all the genetic inheritances behind that? There's something that all that is resting on, that the life force is holding literally as an energy form that we step into, that all of us step into. At a certain point, we become a living being inside a womb. So at that point, we cross this threshold and we step into matter, and that unbreakable resolve of our spirit says we are now going to exist in this world as a physical pattern, along with all the other physical human patterns. So we normally don't tend to think of it like that, but that's what. So again, when we're looking at something like inertia, it just means we quit. We don't want to be a participant of that pattern. And what that means is we're divorced from our spirit, because our spirit is unbreakable resolve. Our spirit is every single one of the 64 siddhas. That's the identity of our spirit, all 64 of them. Our gift is the soul. So that's one thing to get, and so as we learn to work with our gifts and through focus, we become more and more determined to express the pattern that we are. And there's so many different dimensions of the pattern that we are, that we've been given, us humans. Just 64 in the most general sense, but then there's 6 lines of each of those 64, and it goes on and on. There's 6 colors of those 6 lines and 6 tones of those 6. It gets into way down into a very precise formula of what each one of us is here to contribute uniquely to the whole through our life force. And that comes through this gate of pattern. And it's an invincible thing in us, but we have to be in touch with our spirit to bring that out. So I'm going to open space to the higher and ask for help from above, and open the siddha space right now and see, as I step into this sense of unbreakable resolve, is it was something I was sharing earlier today with someone, is that my greatest, I guess you could call it quality, is the ability to open a space like this in such a way that everybody else is able to step into it and operate in the same way I do. And it's been my thing from day one. And this is invincible in me because as I touch it, I feel it's like the most powerful thing in me. It's like my my Rock of Gibraltar, I guess you could say. That's a good way to put it. That immovable place in me that just stands tall and vertical in alignment with my spirit, that we as human beings have a right to know who we are. It's just an inalienable right that we inhabit this form. We have a right to know who we are, should we choose to. It's not something we need to ever enforce upon others. So what I discovered in discovering myself, that as I share it, the space becomes available for anybody else to step into that space and do the same thing. And that's virtue. That's what my life's work is this lifetime. It's a different gene key than the 9th gene key. It's the 7th gene key, but it doesn't matter because it also has that quality when you step into whatever your life's work is, of invincibility, of unbreakable resolve. That to truly step into my life's work as spirit, I have to open up something like this, which for me, to be honest, this is like the most vulnerable I can be when I step into a space with others and share my deepest secrets, because I don't know whether I'm going to be rejected, accepted, or whatever. So it's an incredibly vulnerable space to be in. But what I notice is as I step into that space and I own that space, there's a very beautiful energy that comes into me that allows me to infect the space with the same energy. And it's a very beautiful energy because it supports the expression of spirit. And as always, when I step into a siddha space, and I mention this in each meeting because it's just one of the qualities of stepping into siddha space, I never know where it's going to go. I never know how it's going to take me. And so one of the greatest qualities of a siddha is as you step into it, it always feels like you're not going to be enough to quite equal a siddha, that high of a frequency. But the more you step in it, the more you keep trusting and the more it keeps opening. And the truth is, if we had hours and hours and just went into siddhas for a while, we wouldn't want to come out until we just couldn't keep our eyes open anymore. In years past, I used to spend all night when I was first learning about siddhas and getting into them. We would get into it and then we'd just hang out in there for hours, and the kind of things you can discover about yourself and the universe and life and everything is mind-boggling. But my intent here is that we at least each one of us gets a chance to touch the siddha space, because just to be touched by that, which is really a way, the spirit in yourself is another way of saying, that place in you that's God, if you like that term, or Buddha, if you like that term better. I mean, whatever you're comfortable with. It's either God or Buddha, one or the other. The way I look at it is, it's God is the name for all Buddha nature all at once, and Buddha is a specific instance of God. So to me, it's really just the point, the circumference and the center of the circle. The center of the circle is a Buddha, and the whole circle is God. It's the same thing. But that's what we're touching in a siddha space. So, I think that's a good start into what it means to, I guess another way to say this thing of invincibility, which I kind of like better, is indomitable spirit. That's a good way to say it. Indomitable spirit. About who you are, not about something outside you. It has to be something that's you're giving, that you are, when you get into it, it's a pure giving. The way I would put it. Also the sense that we are all connected now through our beings when we step into siddha space, and we have emanations of consciousness that come out of our centers that can connect into anything we want to through our intent. And that's just a fact. And so whenever I say we're all connected through our bellies and we're literally one consciousness right now that's hosting a higher form of intelligence that we are literally creating, but at the same time, the universal life force in connection with the Great Spirit, I guess you could call it, or the original spirit, is sort of orchestrating that alignment happens, because we're acting according to the laws of the universe. And those are some of the kind of, like, I guess you could call it, technical descriptions that have been passed down in lineages of awakening, that if you set yourself up in a certain way, in a certain configuration with a certain intent, and everybody intentionally takes those filaments of light, which are called emanations, that come out of your belly and connect you. You couldn't be alive if you didn't have those, and connect you to anything you want to put your attention to. And if we want to connect to all of us for the purpose of raising our consciousness, then that's what's going to happen. And that's why this space works, because we know that, and when we do that, that's what happens. So there's some neat little set of secret stuff that comes out of invincibility and unbreakable resolve of my 50 years. That's my unbreakable resolve. For 50 years, I've been meditating since I was 12, and it's been unbreakable. So, and now I do it like this. This is my meditation. This is me meditating right now with all of you, and you're meditating with me. So that's why I think this is such a lovely space, and it creates such healing and everything else, because it covers all the dimensions of healing. I mean, well, healing, but meditation. Meditation starts with healing, and it goes through vision, space, and then it also connects you with your divinity. It should include all those, or it's not really meditation. So I guess a way to create a space that's easy to enter into in relation to unbreakable resolve. What is the one thing that you have no doubt about in this life that without you, it wouldn't get done? What is that one thing? And in other words, what's that one thing that is uniquely you that you're giving to the world? Because that's what unbreakable resolve is about.
I think, should I go? Is that okay? When I sit in that space, I feel like if I was reborn or reincarnated, I chose this. This was the path that I chose. I chose because I needed this, and this was my next step, whatever level I'm on. But I feel like I'm on the path, and I'm high up in the path, but I'm not fully there. I'm forever learning, and I chose this, and it's kind of I feel like I don't know how to quite put this, but I feel like I'm quite good at discerning advice and influence and whether to take it or avoid it. And I feel like a lot of the things I choose to avoid or want in turn have the same effect, which is change, but it's the difference is my expectations of them, or whether they're good or bad. And knowing that I chose this path and that it is a planned path, letting go of the expectations, and just being who I am, which is the change that needs to be, whatever that was, which was decided before me. And just being what I am, again, without, it's finding the balance of like no expectations, no wants, no needs. also things we do want which are for the better. You know, even when we want the world to wake up and fellow man to get a grip and be on her, like those kind of wants as well. Once you let go of that and just be the person you are, and let go of the expectations and the wants, you're going to be more effective, because you're not going to do anything with those feelings anyway. They're not going to add to your journey. So once you let go of that, you're on your journey, but a bit more aware and maybe a bit more open to the next step faster. I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense.
That was positively some of the best stuff I've heard all day. I thought that was really good. I was just getting a hit that you were. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're really. I don't know if you know the word grok. It comes from A Stranger in a Strange Land. Highlight. It's a book from a science fiction writer, but grok means to really get something. And I felt like you were kind of literally connecting into the Siddha space while you were describing what you were describing, because it was captivating. What you were saying was captivating my consciousness while you were saying it. So that's a very high frequency of focus, that when you can get others to be that focused on what you're doing. So it made a lot of sense. It made total sense. I was right there with it. That's a really fun thing when you get into Siddha space. It can create, if you just do it and just get into it and go with the flow of it, it can create it, and other people tune into it. It can create a little journey, kind of go on a little journey with them. So for me, yeah, it's totally. Evan and Nolan are pretty good at that too. They'll start talking and they just take you with them on this little journey when they do it. And it's not like you have to know how to do it. You just have to trust your guts and do it. And so I thought it was great. I went into definitely Siddha space with that. My resolve was unbreakable while you were talking. So, for sure.
Can you explain to me what you mean by unbreakable resolve in the context you just used it in?
Yes. It means my intent to listen to what she was saying was easy, so easy, because it was totally interesting me and engaging my full attention. So there's no way you could break my resolve to stay connected with her while she was expressing it. So all I can say, yeah, go ahead, Lucy. Good.
Thanks. I guess just answering your question, your guidance into this, in terms of what we individually bring to the world, and what our maybe reason for being is, what wouldn't exist if we didn't put all our focused intent into it, would be Paradise Rising for me. But also, I guess it's the art, the creativity, and the spirituality that I really feel drawn to and feel called to do my absolute best to bring to the movement. And in creating that, and creating Paradise Rising, and working with others to help it grow and really bring light and color and these kind of high vibes to the organization. I feel like that's really my reason for existing, my reason for being here, and the unbreakable resolve. It's definitely wavered in the past, definitely. But looking back, I can see times where I've actually legitimately can remember saying, okay, yeah, I will do it. Like, this is my calling. Literally, the reason to exist is to live this way, and to bring myself and my vibe to animal rights, or I guess it's, for me, it's animal rights, but I'm coming back full circle again to where I was a couple of years ago in terms of animal rights, but also human rights. One of the reasons I went vegan in the first place was human rights violations. So I'm really, for me, it's quite a all connected kind of thing. So bringing that to the spaces that I work within and the people that I work with, I feel like that's my gift in a way. And I know that this is the sitter space as opposed to the gift space, but being able to connect with my higher self and connect with other beings as well, because I'm really at the moment honing in on raising my vibration, raising my consciousness, and clearing out my energy centers so that I'm able to be more of a clear channel for the message, so that when I do get into sitter spaces, when I'm doing videos and that kind of thing for Paradise Rising, but for I like to call it earthly emancipation, for earthly emancipation in general as well, then I'm able to actually really be sort of a mouthpiece, or be a more effective, or as effective as possible, channel for source, for whatever messages need to come through. If they're for the divine purpose of shifting into a new paradigm and, you know, having a vegan world, then that's my resolve, is to really focus my intent on clearing myself and being as clear a channel as possible, so that I can really speak the message that I need to be able to. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it right at the end there. I saw you get into what you're saying and be a channel, and with your resolve to let because you have to be in pure resolve to let your spirit come through and move you. Yeah. So you kind of took a circuitous path, but at the last moment you kind of nailed it. So cool. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun for me to watch people when they stumble around and eventually hit that sitter, because then what it does for me, because we're all in the same, really one consciousness, I just kind of get like a pinball machine that goes on tilt. Everything just lights up inside and lines up. So it's a good marker. I'm lucky I have that, so I can tell, and I just wait, and then the sitter space happens. But also what I see with you is, I guess it's a humbleness. It's like you don't want to pretend something you're not really, and I get that from you, Lucy, and I think that's a beautiful quality, is that you don't want to over pretend yourself. You'll step into it as you can step into it, and you'll be real with as much as you can step into it, and then you'll give whatever you can give from that space. Is that true? Yeah, because I don't get you as a fake or a person who puts on airs or anything. You're really just trying to nail it, but you're at the same time being realistic about how much you're really nailing it, and you're always open to nailing it more. I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for noticing that. I guess it's something that I've been very aware of and conscious of, doing my best to not come across as. We all have an ego, obviously. We all have a shadow, but not to be egotistical, and not to. I would never want to come across as arrogant. And I would, I guess, honing the humility kind of quality is definitely something that I focus on. So I hope that it does come through that way. Because I wouldn't want people to feel that I think that I'm, we're all individual, we're all different. So we all have our own unique qualities. I'm glad that you can see that. Thank you.
Well, that's to me what it takes to be able to handle unbreakable resolve and just keep going and going and going until you get there, and then just keep going anyway, because what else are you going to do until you're done on this plane? Just keep going. But yeah, so I just think it's realistic.
I've noticed that a big difference in my vegan advocacy, especially when I come from a place of more humility where I actually want to help rise people up rather than coming on top of them and saying, you know, there's, there's horrible things going on and this and this and this, and, you know, you have to change, and hating people and why aren't they, but the few times that I've been able to really just be there and be solid, but feel like I'm helping to raise people up. And I've noticed a massive difference in the response that people have. Well, they'll really listen, and when they know what, because we come across like I see you, I love you, I respect you, and there's something just really from my heart. And I have all the information too, but this is something that you know, and then you're like equal, because when you're coming down on somebody, even though we're right, and it's kind of an easy thing to feel like you just want to scream, you know, stop, you know, but it generally doesn't like work, you know. So, thank you.
I like that. You kind of, humility is also a siddha too, by the way. It's the 31st life code siddha. So, and I felt you touched it really beautifully. And like I say, there's no rules. It's you know, I think it's connected with unbreakable resolve in the sense that if you really want to hang in with this long enough until the change happens, and that means it might not even be you, it might be the generation after, whatever, but you are a part of that link in the, then I think humility is really be the peace you want to see in the world. That's how I say it. Sarah loved that when I told her that in one of the meetings. I said, be the peace you want to see in the world. And she told me that's what I'm going to take from all this. And so I'm glad she did, because she's very powerful. And if she can really live that one down, she could be amazing in touching people's hearts. Because to me, I guess that's one of the reasons why I created this meeting, because I see that, walk in the path of peace is not easy, and it needs a lot of support. But at the same time, it's also to create a beautiful space where people's hearts are touched, you know. And because if we can't start being the peace we want to see in the world, then I'm really, you know, I don't think any movement that's whatever is going to work. Denise, would you like to share something? You're on mute.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to hear everyone's space. For me, my resolve, unbreakable, is to definitely be in my high vibration in my entire embodied experience in the light body. To feel like music, harmony, resonance, to be like a star that attracts and sends signals of love and appreciation and gratitude and joy and celebration, and just living in that like a dance inside of me, and really just dropping into the presence of what wants to come through, like my chi moving through me in a sacred geometric harmonic pattern, feeling, and really arriving to my truth, and allowing my body to be a physical emanation of that. And the truth being of love, being love. And then sharing that, connecting with others in that. Try not to get into the shadow. All these butts are coming up.
Well, before you go into any shadow, I felt like you, what you just shared, you were actually being what you were sharing. I really got that. So I thought that was really cool. So if you need to hear you're doing it right, then, well, you're doing it right. So I know you don't need to, but I like to be, when it comes to siddhas, I like to be a little irreverent and silly and remember a bit of humor too, because it can get a little, when we get so deep, sometimes it can get, you know, make sure. But no, you're doing it. I mean, that's what I felt. What you were describing, you were being it. That's what siddhas are about. You embody. That's hence the term embodiment.
I can feel myself have the ability to go deeper, and I would like to bring that to presence more in reality. Like I've dropped in and been there, and then popped out. I'd like to integrate it more and feel like it's safe to do that in the world.
Yeah, that takes great courage to be able to, that's the courage of great leaders, to be able to stand in the siddha and then also enact your life from that space. That's, yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Can I read a quick quote? I read a thing from Rumi earlier, and this reminded me of that. So it just says, those doing soul work who want the searing truth more than solace or applause know each other right away.
And everybody laughs. We're all guilty of that. So there you go. Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. We know each other.
Well done. I like it. All right. So now it's just, let me see. It's time to close the space. Denise already did kind of a pre-close. That was really good, everything you just did. But Nancy, I don't think you've closed a space yet, a meeting yet, have you?
This is only my second one.
I thought this was your third one.
I don't think so.
Well, Stephanie had to do it on her first one.
Okay.
So can you think you can do it on your second one? And it's
Sure,
not, yeah.
I can do it.
And Denise, don't worry, I wasn't going to make you do it on your first one. You can do it on the next one or whatever. Even though I know you could do it. In fact, you kind of just did it, but I want Nancy to actually have the official closing because she hasn't done it yet, and she's been here for a few meetings. So
Maybe I was here for one in spirit. And two physically. So what do we do?
yeah, just kind of synthesize everything, how it has impacted you, and then just kind of share it with the world in a way that's meaningful to the collective, I guess you could say. So we're we're in siddha space. So if you just trust that, that'll kind of guide you too.
How do you define siddha space?
Supernatural ability, higher self, embodied, acting from your being, from your core, from your divinity.
So what you're talking about is the true natural human state.
Right after but it does take you have to earn it. It's the true natural human state is gift state. That's where we should all be when we grow up. We should all be in touch with our gifts. Siddhas, you have to earn, you have to work on. You have to work specifically on the path of awakening with the intent of unbreakable resolve over several decades, with that focus of becoming more silent, more still, more loving, more aware, more conscious, more compassionate, more ecstatic, more et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, more fluorescent.
So so closing is like setting an intention.
Well, let me tell you this. At the end of this meeting, if you were to summarize your experience of it and share it with another person, could you do that right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling like a bit of a wetback, here, but I'll try.
Cool.
there is just a space we create where we are reaching for the higher self and to speak from our truth wherever that is. Like I spoke about my depression and you know, all of it's okay. And to not be trying to be something else was like unbecoming, but yet becoming, you know, our truer self and connecting in honesty and in love and compassion, and all with the intention that we want to help create a better world, that it's not just for us, for me, you know, it's a we, how can we come together, because we really are all one inside, you know, we're all really almost like different parts of the same being. And that wonderful quote, like, how do you treat others? Buddha says there are no others. And that's like the essence of being vegan too, you know. And so, and I like the fact in a way that I guess we all are, but you don't like have to be. It's not like, you know, it's not necessarily that we're talking about being vegan, but I guess we are, but you don't necessarily have to be, but understanding that that's really what the true nature, the true, you know, essence of it really comes from. So it's just kind of honesty is the key, and for me here, and just hearing everyone else come from that place of heartfelt truth.
I thought that was really well done. Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.